Hi guys, and welcome to another one of these higher PE videos. Today we're going to be looking at approaches to develop skills. So first of all, we've got shadow practice. This is an approach which involves performing a skill repeatedly with no ball or no shuttle, focusing on specific subroutines. So here we're just going to learn the basic movements of a skill. So for example, in badminton, I would have the court all set up, I would have a badminton racket, and if I was doing the overhead clear, and that's what I want to focus on, I would just do it as if it was a game, obviously with no pressure, but I would start in the middle of the court, I'd pretend someone has hit the shuttle over me, and I would shuffle to the back of the court and mimic an overhead clear, then return back to the centre, and while doing this, I'll be on my toes at all time, just imagine like I was in a game. An example of this is shadowing a model performer's movement. So you could watch him on YouTube and then you can go and mimic what he does. Or you could slowly perform the movement under no pressure, obviously because it's not a game situation. As well as this, if you're lucky enough, you could be using a mirror. So you could have a mirror in the hall and you could be watching yourself while you're doing that. Have a think back to the slides we done a few weeks ago and think, what stage of learning would use this? So we had that continuum. What end of the continuum would we be at? Would it be right at the start? Would this be for an advanced performer? Have a think about that on top. So benefits. As the performer, we can practice it in a closed, internally paced environment. So there's no pressure, there's no external pressure, there's no one competing against you. It's just you controlling your environment, and it is in quite a safe space when you're doing it. So there's little or no pressure on the performer, so there's no crowd. Obviously, we're not using the shuttle, and there's no point system, so it's just down to you. And by doing this, it can develop muscle memory of the skill. So basically what that means is it would come second nature. So when you are in that game situation, if someone hits over your head, towards the back of the court, it's just second nature and it's muscle memory for you to shuffle back and use that arm movement that you've obviously been practicing. And the performer can kind of understand how the skill's supposed to feel. So internal feedback. So when you're performing it, internally you're going to get a feel for how that feels when the racket makes that swishing noise, maybe when you're hitting over your head, how your shoulders and arm feel when you're hitting it right, and that's going to help you when you get into a game situation. But the limitations, of course, this can get really boring and really tedious if you're doing this for a 20-minute drill. Repetition drills. So this approach involves repeating a skill over and over again. Again, this allows the performer to focus on a specific subroutine within their performance that needs improved, that might be a weakness, and then again, this will develop it to muscle memory. This time, however, you would have a shuttle if you were doing it in badminton. So say I wanted to work on my serve, my high serve to the back of the court, I would have a shuttle, I'd have the racket, the net set up again, and I'd be hitting as many as I can across the court, trying to get it in towards them back tram lines, repeatedly and repeatedly. So small parts of the skill or the entire skill can be practiced. So you could do a small part, so you could do just the swinging motion of your arm or something if you didn't want to use the shuttle, or you could do the whole movement, going right through, hitting the shuttle and actually putting it to the other side of the court. So benefits. Again, this is a controlled environment. It focuses on specific aspects of the skill. So like we said, the serve. You can get feedback after every shot. This could be internally or maybe from a friend or from a coach. You could ask them, and after every shot, they could comment on what you should do for the next shot. And the difficulty can be increased. So I could do a repetition drill just aiming for the tram lines. If I'm too good at that, I could put down a hula hoop in the back tram lines and aim specifically for that, so you can change the difficulty. Again, this can become boring, which is a limitation, and if someone doesn't correct your technique, so if you don't get that feedback, you could continuously be practicing bad technique, and that could become your muscle memory and you can get in a bad habit. The next one we have here is gradual build-up. So gradual build-up is a useful approach for learning complex skills. This is because it allows you to break it down into smaller bits, and it allows you to develop confidence whilst ensuring quality, as it consists of this. Breaking down the skill, obviously into smaller parts like I've said, practicing one individual part of the skill in isolation, increasing the complexity by adding other parts of the skill, and you can repeat the process until I can effectively perform the entire skill. So a good example I like to use is basketball, the layup. Okay, this looks easy when you watch people doing it, professionals, but it is actually very complex and a very difficult skill. So by breaking it down, instead of doing, obviously in basketball you have to dribble by bouncing it, and then you can take them 2 steps by holding the ball under the basket, and then you jump, you reach for the basket, and you try and get the basket and the basketball in. As well as this, you need to be working on your foot placement, where you take your jump, where you reach for, so there is a lot to go into it. So if we break this down into smaller bits, for example, just the dribbling under the basket and then shoot, and then gradually we'll add in different bits like the 2 steps you can take while basically travelling, but it isn't because you love them 2 steps. We can combine this all together and make it the whole skill all together. But by gradually building up, you can learn piece by piece the different subroutines, the different skills within that complex skill, and then eventually put it all together. I know I've made that sound more confusing than it is, but it isn't. And if you need any help with that, you can just send me a message. Part hole. So this is often used in swimming, and it's quite effective. You need to be able to demonstrate the whole skill, the whole activity, and then you break it down. So it's kind of like the opposite of gradual build-up. You know the whole skill, and you break it down and you go backwards. So once you've practiced a specific part, then you can put the skill all back together. So if we're doing the front crawl, for example, and your coach notices your feet, or you notice your feet and your ankle movement isn't as good as it should be, we can break this down. So we can use equipment such as floats. You can use a float on your front and take out the arm movement and focus just on your legs and your feet if that is the weakness within your performance. Benefits of this is that a technical weakness can be identified, like I said, by a coach, and then you can isolate it and practice it in different parts. Again, like I've said, using equipment provides a variety and it avoids boredom. So like a lot of the limitations of being you get bored, within this one it's easier to not get bored because you can use different bits of equipment during the session. So floats provide buoyancy to keep the body up on the surface, and then you could do things like using your legs. And floats can also provide increased resistance. So using 2 or 3 floats in an upright position adds resistance to swim against and increases the intensity of the training because obviously your legs have to work harder to push through the water. So that's how you can change the intensity of this as well. And at the bottom there it also says flippers can be used to overload the legs and encourage that ankle movement and help to get a good feel of the water. So that's obviously the intrinsic feeling. Condition games. So I'm sure we're all familiar with this. This is just the rules of the game can obviously be changed to suit your weakness. So you're conditioning the game down to yourself. So there's a different focus to the game, for example. One that I like is in table tennis. We all know table tennis. You can easily change the condition game. So you play, obviously there's a point system. However, you can alter it every time you get a point, say using your forehand, you get 2 points. So it encourages you to use that specific movement if that is your weakness. And again, this goes along the continuum from the associative stage to the autonomous stage of learning. The benefits of this is the practice will reflect the demanding context of the game. So it's externally paced because you're playing against an opponent. So this external pace gets you used to the game conditions. And like I said, it allows you to focus on other aspects of the game, such as making quick decisions and responding quickly. So it's externally paced. You're playing against an opponent. They're not just going to feed it to you like a feeder would if you were doing a drill that wasn't externally paced. They're going to be playing just as hard against you. So you're going to have to deal with a lot of different things as well as focusing on that weakness, which would be the forehand, like we said. And yeah, the conditions encourage you to focus on your weak skill or a specific part of your performance. Model performers. So model performers are those who possess the qualities that we would like to have and we desire to have, and those who are affected us in the way that makes us want to do better and be better people. So as a footballer, you might look up to Messi and he might inspire you to do better and do more. If you see how great he is, all the skills he has, everything that he can do in a game, he could actually inspire you to go that one step further. They can also be used to motivate us. Like I said, if I see Messi, I get motivated to play even better. And it can encourage or improve your behaviour and self-conduct. So if you see a model performer, they're often quite respectful to their opponent. So that could also encourage us to maybe have more respect within our game. And a model performer can also come from a performer's own activity or from other activities, as it's their personal qualities and behaviours. So it's not actually their skill, it's more them as a person. Like I said, the respect maybe they have,